Am I the asshole for saying just leave at my cookout? My sister Nicole 34 brought her new boyfriend, Steve, to our family cookout yesterday. It's for about 30 people. For the sides, everyone brought in sides. My sister brought one bag of store-brand potato chips, and Steve helped himself to beer right away before being introduced to everyone. We are having hamburgers and hot dogs and just hanging out with the family. It's nothing fancy. Steve asks, "Is this it?" When the first plate of hot dogs is done and waiting on a round of hamburgers. My wife says there will be hamburgers soon, and Steve tells my wife and sister about his family and how they have barbecue chicken, steak, shrimp, and many options. I picked up the plate of hot dogs and told Steve he could leave and go to his family BBQ instead. He just looked at me and drank his beer, and I told him and my sister to go since this wasn't good enough for Steve. I gave my sister store-brand photo chips back and told her to get out. My sister and Steve left, and the cookout was fine after that. My mom heard about me kicking them out and was mad at me and told me to apologize to my sister. Maybe there was a misunderstanding, but Steve was just an asshole commenting like that at someone's house and the first time you meet their family. My wife thinks I was right because Steve acted like that in her home. And insulting the host is a good reason to be kicked out. Others are split about 50-50ths when they heard about what happened. Am I the asshole for ghosting my cheating fiance? So, I basically did what the title says, but for context, I 27 female dated my ex-fiance Jonathan 29 male for 4 years, and we had been engaged for a couple of months. It was a good relationship, and I truly thought we would spend the rest of our lives together, but I guess I was just too naive to see the truth. To keep it short, I found out he had been cheating on me with a mutual friend for a couple of months, and that group of friends in particular was covering up his affair. They were all acting strange, so I went through his phone and I found out they had like a separate group where they even made fun of me for not realizing. I was furious, and my first impulse was to berate them all. However, I ended up deciding to just disappear from their lives. Any confrontation was clearly a waste of time with these people. When he went to work the next day, I packed everything I owned, took all the money I put on our joint account, which was a lot, since we were paying for our wedding. We were planning a good honeymoon and wanted to buy a house. I blocked them from everywhere, put my accounts on private, changed my number, and I went back to my hometown and stayed with my mom and stepdad. I was so mad I even left my job right away. I told my friends and family what had happened, and then I decided to go on a big trip with some of the money had put on our joint account. I left for 3 months. I had the time of my life and came back home like 2 months ago. I was able to get a job here, and I decided to start dating again. It's nothing serious, but I have been seeing this nice guy for about a month. I'm just trying to put my life back on track. Anyway, recently my family and friends are telling me that my ex and our ex-mutual friends are bombarding them with texts on social media. They apparently want to know where I am and are asking how I'm doing. And they are saying what I did was childish and I should just talk to them at least. I have no intention of this. For me, it's a closed phase of my life, and I literally did nothing at all. I just left. They will never see my face again or hear from me, and I told my close circle to just block or ignore them. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for favoring my son? For some context, while also keeping this brief, my 36 male first wife passed away around 7 years ago. It was extremely sudden and traumatic for all of us, but I think it affected my daughter Emma 14 female the most. She went through a period of time where she became really angry at everything and everyone, but nowadays she's become more quiet, while my son Jacob 16 meters became very dedicated to schoolwork and his future. I got remarried 2 years ago to Kate 30 for female, and while it took a while, she gets along with the kids well enough. And Emma especially seems to have really warmed up to her and they spend a lot of time together. I work for most of the week and lately it's been from home, so I can't spend as much time with the kids as I would like, but I always make sure to talk to them while we're having dinner. Almost every night Jacob will tell me about something impressive he did at school and I'll congratulate him and tell him I'm proud of him and sometimes give him extra in his allowance. Like I said, Emma is quiet and doesn't really talk much at all at dinner. On Saturday night, after a bit of coaxing from Kate, Emma told me she got to a B in her science class, which is pretty rare for her, and I told her I was happy for her. Later that same night, while I was working, she came into my office and asked if I wanted to see her creative writing project for her English class, but I told her I was busy and she could show me tomorrow. I didn't get a look at her, but as she was walking out she said, "If it was Jacob asking, you would drop everything you were doing." In the morning, after the kids and to school, Kate came to me and said I needed to stop being so dense and that she was tired of having Emma come to her crying because her own father will barely pay attention to her or give her a compliment. I didn't think I was doing anything particularly harmful or neglectful, but I've been second-guessing myself and figure I would lay it out here for others to judge. Am I the asshole for not pretending my girlfriend's plushies are real? My girlfriend, 27 female, has lots of plushies, about 30. Every morning, she arranges them on her bed, and every night they go from the bed to the couch, still neatly arranged. One morning she asked me to put the plushies on the bed and got upset when I didn't arrange them properly. I asked her what the big deal was since they're gonna be back on the couch at night anyway, but she got upset because she wants them to be comfortable. Every now and then, when we're watching TV or something, she asked me to hold a plushie because they need attention. I'm fine with all this and used to think it was cute, but it's gotten to a point where she wants me to talk to them. She pick up a plushie and pretend it's talking to me, and expects me to play along. I'm not into it and mostly just ignore this. But recently she got a note at me. She asked me why I don't care about them or talk to them, and I said, "You understand they're not real, right?" And she got extremely upset and yelled at me for being mean and not taking her seriously. Some things to note: she's very stable, has a good job, and is a homeowner. Some of the plushies have sentimental value. She's had them for decades, but some are just random ones she's picked up from Target or whatever. Am I the asshole for tricking my kids into eating mushroom soup? My children are not allergic to mushrooms. My children love cream of mushroom soup. My kids hate the texture of mushrooms. When my wife uses canned mushroom soup in a recipe, she will strain out the mushrooms for the kids. However, when I use mushroom soup in a recipe, I run it through the blender. The pieces are so little that they have no texture. The kids don't complain about it and I don't waste time. My wife seems to think that I'm being an asshole because I'm trucking them into eating something they have been very clear about not liking. I asked if she would rather eat a fistful of raw flour or a slice of bread. Preparation makes a difference. I think we are both trying to make sure that the kids eat a good meal, we just go about it different ways. Am I the asshole for ruining a baby name? I am Brazilian, but I've been living in the US for 3 years. My first language is Brazilian Portuguese. I have a 4-year-old son. And I'm pregnant with a girl due in May. My son is friends with a girl whose mother, I'll call her Becca, is also pregnant. She's due a couple weeks before me, and is also expecting a third girl. Since we take our kids on playdates almost weekly, we frequently talk about our pregnancies. Becca is into unique names. Not uniques or tragedies, but names that she and her husband create. It's not my style, but she managed to come up with genuinely nice names, both her older daughters, so there was never really a reason for me to say anything. This time, Becca and her husband had a lot of trouble coming up with a new name. She first brought this up last December. For months, they'd try to create something that sounded good. With no success, we took our kids on a playdate at a park this weekend. When we sat down for a snack, Becca excitedly told me they'd finally settled on a name. I was really happy for her and asked what they'd chosen. Norina. To those who don't know, that's Portuguese for nostril. I managed to control myself and told her it sounded lovely, but my son let out a giggle. My husband and I are raising him bilingual, so he speaks Portuguese, and Becca wanted to know why. I tried to brush it off, but she kept insisting. Eventually, I told her that while Norina could be a lovely name, it was also the Portuguese word for nostril. Becca seemed really sad to hear that. She said she'd think of something else, but had fallen in love with Norina. After we went home, Becca's husband called me. He was furious at me for ruining the only name they had agreed on. Apparently, he had a fight with Becca because she told him she wanted to think of something else. He argued they'd never visit Brazil anyway, so they shouldn't have to change the name. But Becca refused to use Norina. My husband agrees that their fight is not my fault, but thinks I didn't need to tell Becca anything, since Americans are unlikely to know what Norina means. Edit. This was not my son's fault. He is 4 years old and had an honest reaction to hearing a baby would essentially be named Nostril. I get that some people might think I was the odd, but don't blame my child for this. Edit 2. Okay, a lot of people are misreading Norina as Narnia. No real comment on that, but the Chronicles of Nostril has a nice ring to it. Edit 3. Just posted an update. please leave your comments down below to any of today's stories. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.